Hi, Shannon Waller here, and welcome to the Inside Strategic Coach podcast with Dan Sullivan. Dan, today we're going to talk about something you've chatted about with Peter Diamandis on your Exponential Wisdom podcast, and that is the ability to be grateful for technology. Mm-hmm. And I love this topic because I think technology is something it's very easy to take for granted. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to be looking for the next thing. I know I'm very appreciative of my iPhone. That's where I come from. But most people, from what you and Peter were talking about, are not particularly grateful for all of the additional conveniences that technology provides. So what's the context around being grateful for technology?
Well, it was just an observation that I made to Peter, and then we sketched out the concept. But it was basically that I've been watching the high-tech world, let's say, since the internet started. I would say it's probably mid-90s when the internet started. And there was kind of a craziness that entered into the technology world. And that is, there was kind of first of all, I think collectively the entire high technology world went into the gap, to use a coach concept. And that is that no matter how good the thing that they created was, it wasn't really up to their ideal where the technology goes. And they were communicating this through their advertising to the general public and saying, don't get left out, don't get left behind. You got to start thinking, you got to be able to use your technology wherever you are. And one of the things that really alerted this to me, we did the best marketing survey that we've ever done in Strategic Coach last November. And three things came back. One is that all of our clients really wanted to scale their business. Number two is they weren't real happy about the way that they were attracting great team members. So it was scaling team members. And the third one, which really surprised me, it's the first time I've ever heard it, how do they protect their team and their scaling goals from the negativity of technological change? And I had never heard entrepreneurs, and I've been coaching for 45 years, ever position technology as a negative problem that they had to protect their team from. And I said, we've crossed a watershed in the development of technology. It's so pervasive in the world right now, and the internet has certainly brought that about, that now it's creating angst. It's not creating happiness. It's not creating satisfaction, certainly not creating meaning. If anything, there's been a draining of meaning as people are continually worried. Do I have the latest technology? What technologies am I missing? Why am I not maximizing the value of this technology? I'm not getting the productivity out of it that I thought I would. It seems to be increasing the amount of complexity. It's not providing simplicity. And so I think that this is not just an entrepreneurial issue. And one of the indicators I use is just the sheer amount of drug addiction that's going on in society. And I don't mean illegal drug addiction. I mean legal drug addiction. People are drugging themselves to offset the negative impacts that they're feeling from the speed of change, the acceleration. So I said to Peter, in the last 25 years, there's a mindset that I've seen completely missing from the entire high-tech world, the Silicon Valley world, the internet world. And he said, what's that? And I said, gratitude. I just don't see anyone expressing gratitude for the amazing capabilities that we now have in the 21st century, which were just unimaginable, really. When I was born in the 1940s, grew up in the 1950s and 60s. I said, man, if I had had these capabilities back then, and I'm very thankful for, I really appreciate my tools. I really love my technology-empowered capabilities that I have. I want to give you a little indication of two things. First of all, I said with one exception, I haven't seen any gratitude. And the one person that I found who seems to be really grateful is Tim Cook, who, as a lot of people are aware of, Apple became the first trillion-dollar company from a valuation in the world. And whenever Tim Cook talks, he invariably mentions Steve Jobs, and he always says how grateful at Apple everybody is for the fact that they were able to work with Steve Jobs, that he created a very special kind of company, and they have a very special relationship with the marketplace. They always did continue making beautiful technology that people love using. And the other thing is, in all this talk about people misusing your information, Apple has been pretty pure about guarding people's personal information and not selling information as a way of making money for people. So he's a real exception. But when you look at the technology world and you go back to who created the high-tech world, who created the microchip, who created the personal computer, who created the internet, all the major thinkers whose thoughts actually created the present world are dead. They were alive in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it was the thinking of these individuals. All physical reality comes from conceptual reality, and the physical reality of the present world really comes from the conceptual creativity that happened over about a 30 or 40-year period from 1950s to the 1980s.
That's fascinating. And for me, it's interesting, this whole attitude of gratitude is it's kind of the atmosphere we encourage and live in at Coach. We focus a lot on the positive. And I find it really interesting because, I have 2 teenagers. And so the negativity of technology as it applies to teens is a rampant conversation that happens all over the place. And yet we also take for granted all the incredible conveniences. So I really like this contrasting perspective, Dan, because it's a tool and we can use it to support, what we're up to and how we're growing, or we can be overwhelmed. But I think you have such a healthy appreciation and approach to how to use technology and for how not to get overwhelmed. I mean, one of the things I like how Peter talks about it is he said, you want to ride the wave of technology. You want to surf the top, not be, caught on the undertow underneath.
Every day, I just have this little 5-minute meditation on where my current life is being supported by breakthroughs in technology. Podcasts is a huge one. I'm so grateful for the internet, where you can create a free radio station called Inside Strategic Coach Podcast. And here we are, and it's like we have our own radio station. And I have 7 other podcast series besides the one that we do together. And then all the technologies that make it possible. Zoom, I just totally love Zoom. Every time I'm on Zoom, I said, gee, what a wonderful thing I have here. So here's the thing. Technology does not make you grateful. You have to be grateful for technology. So we've moved into a world where there's nothing about technology that will make you grateful. As a matter of fact, if you are passive with it and you just treat it like a consumer, you're going to be, why does it take so long to get on the internet? You're on the runway with a plane and it's 15 minutes beyond when they said you were going to take off, and you're angsting there, but you're traveling 2,500 miles in roughly 5 hours. And a trip that 100 years ago would have taken you a week or even more than a week to actually get there. And I said, what an amazing thing that we have. But the meaning has to come from the inside. The meaning is not going to come from the outside. So our concept of gratitude is that reactive gratitude, somebody does something nice for you and you feel grateful, but the other person is the actor here. You have to be the actor in relationship to proactive gratitude. And I'd like to just, as we close here, link this up with the word appreciation, because appreciation has the gratitude sense of the word, but it also has the economic sense of the word. And in the economic world, appreciation means you increase the value of something. Gold appreciates, real estate appreciates. And I think that the aspect here is that you have to look at the technology and bring your appreciation to it, and then the meaning of that actually comes. But the first act has to come from the inside. And I just want to close. Babs and I got together to be partners in a team 35 years ago. We have a clock radio that wakes us up in the morning, and it's a little Sony model from the late 1970s, a little tan thing. It's a piece of plastic, it's kind of crappy little piece of equipment. But for 35 years, it's done the one thing that we want a clock radio to do. It wakes us up. It takes a little bit of jiggling to get it on a clear station that I like. And there was probably a period from the 5-year mark until the 20-year mark where it could have been thrown out and replaced with something else. But once it got beyond the 20-year mark, I said, I'm going to keep this forever. I mean, it's solid state. There's nothing that's going to go wrong with it. And it's a little venerable piece of technology that does one thing that we love. And I've just noticed how much I love that little clock radio, and it's 40 years old.
I love it. We were talking about this, and I have a silver clock radio that my dad gave me when I was 18. Well, I'm 53. Mm-hmm. And it's still beside my bed, and it still does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, and it's attached to meaning. It's attached to other things besides just the technology. So we had a Beamer. We had an X5 SUV, BMW, and I loved that car, and the reason was it had to be filled up with gas. Babs now has the Tesla X, and my role as the hero, because Babs doesn't like going into gas stations and she doesn't like filling the car up with gas. And I grew up on a farm, and I kind of like the smell of gasoline. It's got a smell. I like the smell of gasoline. So I used to go in and I would get back in the car, especially if it was raining or it was cold weather, and I'd be out there and I'd fill up the gas tank and I'd get back in. She says, "You're my hero." Tesla, I'm not the hero. And as a result, I don't relate to the Tesla because one of my major roles in my relationship with Babs got removed when we moved from the BMW to the Tesla. And I won't fall in love with the Tesla. I fell in love with the BMW, but I won't fall in love with the Tesla because it took away one of my major hero roles. I can't be a hero to the Tesla.
Right. I love that you want to be a hero to Babs. Dan, I really love this idea of proactive gratitude, especially for technology, because it's a total antidote to the potential overwhelm that people can feel. And when you look around at everything from your clock radio to your smartphone to what have you, to all of the multitude of tools we use, including podcasts and Zoom and business, to really just have this, wow, I couldn't do what I do as easily, as quickly, as well without this. And I think all of a sudden it creates that sense of abundance that's the topic of Peter's first book. And we can look at things much, much differently. So all of that gap thinking that people get into is just totally mitigated by having proactive gratitude for technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon.